Hello, my name is Cameron, and you're listening to PodTacks. Today, we're going to have just a little bit of an abbreviated episode because if you can't hear it in my voice, well, it's not as strong as I would like it to be. Tonsillitis is a bit of a bitch. And I, in my desire to get things out consistently, still want to hold true to the 2 podcast a week system that I've been running. But my mouth hurts, so in that spirit, I still would like to talk about something and get content out there onto the airwaves. But we're not going to spend too much time on that today. I don't think that would be fair to me or to you or to, well, anyone listening who can hear the gravel that is in the back of my mouth at this point in time. So, oh, it hurts to swallow. Okay. That being said, please do like, please do share, please do subscribe to the pod if you care. And it would mean a lot to me for your support. That's not proper grammar. Oh boy, we're having a day today, aren't we? But no, if you do wish to support the pod, support TAX, support TGFS, the easiest way to do that is to inquire as to a paid subscription on Substack. Your support helps me grow, helps this podcast also grow. And with that, I can go and do bigger and better things with this form. So, with that being said, let's get right on into the show, shall we? When I talked about the consistency in showing up a couple of weeks ago, that doesn't apply to being sick. If you're sick, it's good to take a day off. Not that I know how to do that. I think that's one of the things about working from home is that when you are sick, you don't really have as much of an excuse to take a day off. Would I have gone into work today if I had to go into an office? Maybe. I don't know. I remember explicitly, I'm horrible at taking PTO with my old job. And through that, towards the end of my tenure with them, I had caught COVID. At least I think I did. But it was actually one of those things where I was like, I would not have gone into the office today. There is no way in hell. And so I used PTO. And that should be, why would I not do that more often? We are obligated to feel sick when we feel sick, and that's okay. But within the world of growing businesses and online content, there isn't as much room to be quiet. Content needs to continue to pop out at a consistent pace, and I think that's potentially why these types of shows have co-hosts, so that they can continue on unabated if someone has a conflict or a sickness. I think it's also a reminder to invite us to rest. That when we feel wrong, when we feel bad, when the world as we know it doesn't want us to continue forth for a little bit, it's okay to sit back and take some slumber. Now, of course, we have to remember to go back into things with a hearty attitude, a purpose, a drive, a vision, all those wonderful things. But in the meantime, there's a certain level of liberation when it comes to feeling down. You're allowed, people don't begrudge you when you say you're feeling like shit. And while I'm still up and moving, and quite literally the only thing that really truly hurts in my body is the back of my throat. Well, not even my throat, just my tonsils, but it's one of those things where it's like, I can still get up and move. I might even just go to the gym later and wear a mask, as I do, of course. I'm not a monster. But I can give myself a little bit of slack today, which feels good in a way. Yeah, how did I get sick? I'm sure it was from the bachelor party that I went to this past weekend, assuredly, or returning back to the gym, or it could be any number of things. It could be the door handle at, I don't know, the gym, or something. There's no way of knowing, really. But, of course, things go around, people get sick, and we move forward. But through the weekend, I think it also exercises another point that we can take time to not just be sick, but on the opposite end of things, be jovial, do happy things, be excited about our plans. The party I went to was a celebration of a dear friend of mine with 10 other people. It was one of those things where everyone just shut their phone off for a little bit and didn't worry about the trials and tribulations of life for a couple of days. We need more of that. And the theme, it felt like, while we were all hanging out together, made it feel like it was a college hangout. Like your friends who would be down the hall or people who lived down the street. It felt natural and good. When your friends and people who are around you are accessible, it changes the dynamic of how you live. Like, there's a reason why we're attracted to sitcoms where people pop on in. Your 70s show, your Friends, your New Girls, where people live together. Like, the collegiate atmosphere, and I mean that in the sense of not specifically college or university, but the fact that when we live in spaces where we have readily available access to our friends, our loved ones, the people that we hold close, that does so much for our psyche. It makes us feel like we're part of a community. It allows us to be the tribal beings that we are born and bred to be and still need to be, biologically speaking. We rely on our communities for moral support, for strength, for all of the things that we can think of these days. The bastion of where we hold the conversations has to occur within the people who will actually listen to us. I'm not sure if I worded that the proper way, but I'm going to chalk it up to a little bit of a muddled brain this morning. I missed that. And I remember it dearly from my college years, being able to just walk on down to my friend's house. We don't have that in our worlds of apartments and abodes. And maybe it's something as we grow older where it's like, yes, we still absolutely want our own spaces, but when all of our friends and family start to move and go about the country and all around the world, it makes their access so much more difficult. And yes, we can all hold FaceTimes now. The internet is a wonderful thing for that reason. But with the people we make conversation with, it's just not as impactful if it's just the barista or your favorite bartender or someone you see on the street as you walk through. Taking that step towards making those connections meaningful, that is, something salient that you can hang out with them, is the next step forward. And it's hard to do in this day and age. Let's not beat around the bush, especially when, a lot of our generation grew up with the notion that stranger is danger, right? We don't take the initiative as much as we used to. Maybe that's just because we don't have to. We can be locked into our own personal space, what with our devices and one and all. And I don't know if that's a grim reflection of the reality that we face, or if it's just how humans are changing with the world as we know it. But what I do know to be fundamentally true amidst all of this is that in those periods where you are surrounded by your friends, your family, weddings, get-togethers, bachelor parties, just people taking the initiative to invite people out, it's so rewarding. And it's so grounding. Because these are people you can share a common experience with. And from that, grow together. They're people who can meet you where you're at. And they're people who can resonate with your livelihood. It's the third places that we live in. The people who we find connections with. The people who give us the space to slow down and self-evaluate amidst friendly faces. That counts for something. And it counts even more so when we have the ability to set our phones down for a little bit, to let the world pass and our anxieties lessen and everything else fade away. When we can be present and readily available to the people who care about us. And from that, grow as human beings. That's the other side of the coin to this being whole sick thing. Because as much as we want to connect with people, so too is it important to also hold ourselves to be true with how we're feeling. And in as much as we remain present when we're out and about with our friends and family and loved ones, it's also valid to feel the same way when you're on your lonesome. We need our times to recharge. We can't hustle and grind 80-hour weeks without being overwhelmed, overburdened, redlining our internal dials, And so in those moments where we're afforded the opportunity to rest, we should remember to take them. Because rest in and of itself is productive. I think that was my main takeaway from this past week and weekend. Rest is productive. Because with rest, can you better show up for whatever ordeal, endeavor, project, task you have on your plate. Now that's some solace right there, especially in a world that is trying to demand all of our attention at any given time. So, with that, I appreciate you all stopping by for what is proving to be a very abbreviated PodTacks. Remember to rest. Remember to reach out and invite your friends. Remember to be present with the world as you know it and connect with the people who matter to you most. My name is Cameron Pratt, and I'll see you next time here on PodTacks.